Hey, my name is Mason McCurdy, and this is my final video for Intro to Healthcare. I'm going to start off with talking about what we started the class with, which is the great debate on how you spell healthcare, whether there's a space in between health and care or if it's just all one word. Um, like I put in my discussion post, and like I still believe today, I personally don't believe that it really matters because if I'm someone that is talking to you about healthcare and vice versa, no matter how you say it, or even if you write me a note talking about it, whether you have a space or not, I'm going to know what you're referring to. So I think it's been blown way out of proportion. I don't think it's a deal breaker either way. But so, with that being said, I believe that the great debate is there are mixed emotions across society. Does it really matter how it's spelled? No, I don't believe it does. And no matter who says it to who, it gets the point across. And then from there, I'm going to jump into healthcare and its coverage models. Like we went over in week one, there's the four models that we kind of base our healthcare off of, not just us, but the world as a whole. And there's the beverage model, which is financed by the government through tax payments, kind of like the police. Then there's the Bismarck model that is similar to America's, but by using an insurance system that they refer to as sickness funds. Then there's the National Health Insurance model. That's a private sector provider, but payment comes from government. Um, and then there's the out of pocket, which is one where there are no big time providers or anything like that. If you need a service, you pay for that service no matter what that service is. So, and then from there, I'm going to go to the epidemic, is what I refer to it as, is the lack of health literacy. Um, a couple percentages is 12% of adults have proficient health literacy, which, if you look at the world as a whole, that's a really small number. 14%, or AKA 30 million plus people of adults, have below basic health literacy, which is a big problem. Um, Due to the low literacy, they've been linked to poor health outcomes and longer hospital stays, which not only cost them more, but if they can't afford, or even if they can, once person after person after person does that, then ultimately it costs us all more money. So we really need to work on that. And just a good way of doing that is the healthcare providers themselves just need to speak in easier understood terms. Don't have to use all those big Latin words of throughout healthcare. Just kind of break it down to where any Joe Blow can kind of understand and get an idea of what you're talking about. Next is public health is real life. Public health is not a single product or service. It's a transdisciplinary specialty across many topics, people, and organizations. There's a couple different versions of. There's the statutory role, which keeps you from getting sick from others. There's the population-based role, taking action at the community-wide level. There's the surveillance role, which continuously monitors for patterns of diseases. And then there's the social justice role, which is equity for all and reaches out to vulnerable populations. From there, we go to the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, aka HIPAA. Um, with me being in the operating room and in a hospital type setting for the past almost 10 years, I am well aware of HIPAA. For those who aren't well aware, it was passed in 1996. It was intended to make healthcare more efficient and increase healthcare coverage. The portability provisions, tax provisions, and admin were, and simplification of provisions were all on the original bill. And then HIPAA passed an additional privacy rule. Um, well, they issued it for public comment in 1999, and then the final version was issued in 2002. And then most plans were required to be compliant um, by 2003. And then there's organizational theory. Studies organizations to identify patterns, structures to solve problems. Classical is one of the versions which focuses on efficiency and quantifiable output. Behavioral is another version of, and that motivates the workers to perform better. Systems viewpoint looks at the systems as a whole, and evidence based management integrates rigorous and objective hypothesis testing to identify best practices. So those are all very valuable things. I'm a little bit old school when it comes to my organization and my management, and I believe that classical and behavioral are the two most important ones that I use today in my current role as a territory manager. From there, we're going to jump to Medicare, which is one of the two big M's, Medicare and Medicaid. Medicare for those that are 65 years of age and older, or certain young people with certain disabilities. And it's comprised of four parts. Part A kind of covers the hospitalization, nursing care, hospice, and some home care. Part B is your doctor's services, your outpatient, your medical supplies, and preventative services. Part C is offered by a private company that contracts with Medicare, and the preferred provider organization special needs plan. And then Part D pretty much homes in on your prescription drugs. From there, we'll go to Medicaid, which is for low income citizens, created by the federal government but administered by the state. So it is jointly paid for by federal and state government. Within it is a supplemental security income, and 32 states and the District of Columbia provide Medicaid eligibility to people eligible for SSI, which is the supplemental security income. Accreditation. This one we've worked on somewhat recently. There's mixed emotions about accreditation. I think in the right light, it does go a long way, but is it absolutely mandatory, or will it make or break a healthcare facility? I don't believe so. It is completely optional. Healthcare facilities are validated by being evaluated against nationally recognized standards. And the big three are the Joint Commission, the Det-Norske Veritas Healthcare Inc., or DNV, and Healthcare Facilities Accreditation Program. There's plenty more out there that home in more on rehabilitation centers and different healthcare facility settings, but those are the big three. And like I said, if you're in a rural area, there's no other competition, you're the one hospital that the greater population can go to, I don't think you have to worry about that cost. If you're in big downtown Atlanta or downtown Tampa or California where there's ample hospitals and ample places for people to go, I do think at that point in time, not only because you have the resources, but also because why wouldn't you? I mean, if you're competing, it's a good marketing tactic. It may not work for everybody. Not everybody may say, oh, well, this facility's accredited, but it's not going to hurt. And if you have the funds to do it, it would probably be in your best interest. From there, we're going to go to HCAHPS, which is Hospital Consumer Assessment of Healthcare Providers and Systems. This is a standardized survey that relays information to the public. I think this is a really good thing, because if a hospital just does a survey within itself and that's as far as it goes, there's some accountability, but not much. But when you start making things public, where the public has a decision to go there or go elsewhere, I think that's a good way of kind of tightening up ship, if you will, and getting the best out of your employees, because ultimately at the end of the day, they're going to want to perform better, being the public knows exactly what they're doing within those walls. There's 4 completion options for this survey, and it's by mail, by telephone, by mail with a telephone follow-up, or interactive voice recognition system. And then from there, I'm going to go to what we just covered in our last week, which is project management. I think this is probably the most important chapter I believe that we've done thus far. I mean, this kind of stuff is what I'm in school to do. Project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. There are 5 groups that a good project manager is going to look at, and that is initiating, phase, planning phase, executing phase, monitoring and controlling phase, and then the closing phase. And then just a couple tidbits out of each one of those phases is scope, budget, objectives, adjustments, whether you're going over budget or you're running late on time or whatever adjustments need to be made, and then the closing of that project. And then for me to wrap up this video will be my personal SMART goals. And obviously the first one is pretty generic for, I would assume, many people in your class and other classes. And the first is to graduate from eVersity with my Bachelor's of Science in Healthcare Management. As of right now, where I sit, my next SMART goal would be to graduate from an accredited university with my Master's of Science in Healthcare Management or related business degree. Now that's subject to change. I still got a couple years left of this one. By the time I'm done, I may be tired of school. Maybe I'll take a gap. Maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'll just carry right into it. I don't really know yet, but my goal is, as I sit right now, is to complete that master's at some point in time. And then my third, which is all wishful thinking, but it's what I'm working towards, is to find an upper level management position that keeps me on my toes, keeps me always learning, but that also offers great compensation for myself and my family, along with allowing more time for me to spend with my family. So I know that's kind of having the milk and getting the cow too, but you know, at the end of the day, these are goals. These are things that I'm going to work towards. And I truly believe there are plenty of positions out there that I would be happy with in that upper level management position while not having to work the crazy hours that I necessarily have to do right now. Sometimes it's great, but you know, being as I do surgery, my schedule is very hectic. I never know a couple days out what I'll be doing. Cases add on, cases drop off. So I may work 15 hours one day and may work 3 the next. So it's pretty volatile. And so I would like to get something a little more steadfast that I can kind of actually work and make plans to do things rather than just winging it. But anyways, that's my presentation. That's my video. Caitlin, thank you. I really appreciated your instructions, and good luck to you and the rest of the classes that you teach. I surely appreciate it. Thank you so much.